The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher. Welcome to Disrupt Education. I have a great guest, Natasha Price. We're going to just jump in, Natasha. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about who you are. You're a UX designer. You're working with District Zero. Let's just jump in with who you are and what your specialties are.
Yeah, I'm a UI UX designer, sometimes known as a product designer. I work on research, user flows, which is kind of like how the website and app looks and feels, how everything connects together. And I also work on the design, but we also have another designer that's helping us with branding and visuals, kind of making it all pretty.
Awesome.
And and I've been doing that for a while. I've been a longtime graphic designer. I've been a student a lot. Yeah.
Well, let's kind of head into like your education, right? So what did that path look like? You're in Oakland now. Have you always been in the West Coast? And then kind of, take us through your high school days and after. What did that look like?
Sure. I went to high school in Morgan Hill, which is really close to San Jose in California. And that was most of my schooling was like in that area up until college. And then I moved to San Francisco and I went to SFSU. It took me 7 years to get my bachelor's, which is kind of a long time, but school is not always the easiest for me. But it's just like, just get to the end, just do it. And then I went back. I always have done like tons of online classes. Like I'm always trying to do something and learning, especially if you're going to be in technology, you can't rest for a second.
Yeah.
Like you always have to be moving and learning, or else things like pass you by immediately, even just in the span of a year.
Mm-hmm.
I've done city college classes and I did a boot camp for UI UX.
Mm-hmm.
And then I taught, or I was a TA for a boot camp that did UI UX, and I really, really loved that a lot. And now I'm here.
Dig into those different. So you're kind of like me. I've been in online classes. I've been in cohorts. I've been all over the place. Which ones did you like the best? You just mentioned like the UX course was something you like, and then why? What was it about the course or the learning process that you loved the best about that?
What I really loved about when I was taking the boot camp, especially versus college, you kind of are just fulfilling these requirements. It's kind of complicated. There's this whole system and you have to ask for help. And I was a lot younger and I didn't know how to ask for help too. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't know what I was doing. I would be in classes that were way over my head and I thought that it was me, and then sometimes I thought it was the class, and I don't know. But with a boot camp, it's very direct. You know exactly what you're doing. Mm-hmm. There's like these little modules that come out, and you just do them step by step. And I was paired with a mentor. I went to Block, which was an online one. Mm-hmm. And I really loved having a mentor. And since then, I've always made sure I had some type of mentor. I try to also mentor other people, but it's always, there's this spectrum of experience. And even if it's more like having an accountability buddy,
right.
Someone you're like, oh God, okay, my meeting's in a couple of days. I have to get something done so I don't I feel like I've accomplished something and I can be proud, because you have this connection with someone and you want to make them proud.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, having that empathy and connection with someone. And I learned when I was a TA that was really, really important also.
When you jumped into this type of education, how did you know to find a mentor? Were they just provided for you, or was it suggested?
They provided one, and I knew that was important just from career groups that I was in. Everyone says find a mentor, but it's really hard to find a mentor. It's a lot to ask of someone. And I found that because I was doing this paid program, they had to give me a mentor,
Yeah.
because I was paying someone. And then after that, I I tried to seek out mentors more naturally, but then I ended up just doing this thing called Hire Club,
Mm.
where they pair you with professional development people.
Mm.
And I found someone who was a really great UI UX designer, and she really, really pushed me. And I really loved that. It was, it was kind of pricey though, but I really would recommend it to anyone if you are having trouble with that. I felt like my design got better, my resume, like everything got pushed. And so after that, I was kind of not, when COVID hit, I was not doing the best at like self-motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually found a mentor through Craigslist. I was like, I'm just going to throw it out there, find someone. And it was Uzair.
Right.
He hit
Yes.
me up and we started, and he was like, I'm, working on this framework, and I was like, awesome, let's use it. I'll give you feedback on it. We'll like test it through this like mentor-mentee dynamic. And then he ended up bringing me on actually to help develop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we both know Uzair. It's funny.
Yeah.
One day out of the blue, he contacted me here in Chicago. We had coffee, sat down, and started talking. And I don't want to embarrass him too much on the podcast, but a very dynamic person who's very driven into creating something different for education, understanding EQ and social emotional walls and different things like that for students. Well, let's bump into that. Let's jump into District Zero right now. I met Uzair when he was on Clue, which was a little bit more self-directed learning, and there were so many facets to it. And then we kind of tested it out in class and everything, and it was amazing. Tell people what District Zero is, and how are you involved in that as a UX designer?
Sure. I would say a lot of where Zair's products lie are in agile human development and using technology. Technology is extremely disruptive and it's constantly moving. Like 10 years ago, we couldn't have had a product like this. Now everyone has cell phones and everything is really available. So District Zero is this framework that we're developing it right now for students, but it really can be used for anyone. It's really about tracking someone's social, emotional, their well-being, their habits, and their needs on a regular basis in a way that someone can connect with them. A teacher can see how a student is doing every day and how they're doing long-term. And it's really about finding what is stopping students from being their best and happiest selves, and how can we use technology and like little steps to chip away at those things and help people learn about themselves and help the teachers learn about each student.
It's an amazing thing because actually physically in a classroom when we did it together, it was very interesting because students started to gain trust and work with this, and now you have a technology piece. You really can't hide a lot of this stuff when it comes to online learning and different things like that. It's very difficult to connect with students. I know as we finished out last school year, who aren't used to that, and this program is going to be amazing. What are some of the things that you're adding? So it's funny because I got to see the entire path, and we had a meeting last Friday, I think, and just seeing what you've created, it's beautiful. What are some of the small pieces that a UX designer, some of our listeners can figure out, okay, this might be something I might want to go into? What are the pieces that you're putting into it?
Yeah, I'm so excited for it just because I see like a billion possibilities. But we're, for the first round, the biggest key is we just send out these like little surveys, little questions. They come regularly. You become so accustomed to them that it takes just a few minutes and just fill them out. And that's really nice, being able to like look at that long-term progress. But the big thing I think is the blockers and blocker removals. Essentially, like students say like, oh, I was tired before class, so I wasn't paying great attention. if you see that a lot, you're also going to, as a teacher, be like, okay, this is something we need to talk about. You learn a lot more about that student and maybe their home life too, things that you wouldn't normally in a classroom. No student's going to go up to you and say, I'm tired today and that's why I'm not learning well because of this, this, and this. And what's especially nice is we're going to have alerts. So if something is like kind of worrying, you can go straight to that student and find out if they're coming into your classroom in that state of mind, or if they left the classroom in that state of mind. There's all these data points that we can track now. And with the blocker removers, it'll be like, tricks to help you go to sleep. Like, how much do growing teenagers need to sleep? These are things that teachers and adults and parents assume that kids know, and they don't know it. They don't know that exercise helps your brain and you should drink this amount of water and you should get this much sleep. And it seems like basic stuff, but it's all the building blocks and groundwork for being a happy person that can deal with things like school and assignments and everything else that being a teenager throws at you, which is a lot.
Yeah. What I love about it is really having everybody lean in. As an educator, I got to lean into what my blockers were. Uzair and I were really, he's brilliant at it, and he was helping me understand, okay, so these are helps you lean into actually problem solution sets and kind of design thinking your own where you are at any particular point.
Everyone can use that. It doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult. Like, everyone has blockers and everyone needs to work them. No one, I feel like everyone could benefit from a mentor or just having someone check in on them and feel seen,
Right.
One thing that I'm really excited about that we're going to work into the app is personal development also, where you can buy credits and students have the autonomy to use those credits as they want. Like, if they need a tutor twice that week, they can just hire a tutor immediately through the app. Maybe they need a therapy session that week, and they can schedule them regularly or they can schedule them as needed. And so I think that gives a lot more power to students. Something that I remember as a teenager was that I didn't really feel like I had a lot of autonomy. You're kind of like stuck at home and stuck at school. Like, you don't make a lot of choices in your own surroundings and environment. And I think that this kind of gives some power to students in a way. Like, they have the privacy to say, I only want this teacher to see this feedback on the end of class survey. And I think that develops trust, like really powerful trust, and it makes students feel better.
I love the idea of student-centered. Student-centered is so important, especially at the secondary level. Even the earlier we can get students to actually start, taking control of their own learning and allowing them, because I think in the traditional system, we like to box people in and say, you have to check these boxes off. So as a UX designer, I know and you and I kind of have, I've already seen a little synergy, big ideas, right? We know this can go anywhere. In a lot of different places. It could go with companies and different things like that. But I want to focus quickly here on the education system, right? We've all been through it. I work in it. I have a few kids in it. In your opinion, so going forward, knowing what we know now, you're a designer. We're in COVID. We're forced to kind of shift some things around. There's a lot of social emotional. We don't always teach to the student first. We teach subject. How would you change the system if you had the power to do maybe one or two things, or if you want to go grandiose?
So much. Because I had a lot of trouble as a student too. I never felt like people understood what I needed as a student. We did all these standardized tests, and I didn't learn anything about myself through them. What are my weaknesses that I need to work on? I think being self-aware of your needs is really important. And identifying things. Like, if you have ADD, it feels pretty good to know you have ADD, because then you know how to work around those things. And sometimes I wonder if certain things would have been caught earlier in my life. I found out I had asthma a year ago, and now I look back, it makes so much sense. And if I did an end of class survey at the end of PE, I think people would have caught that a lot sooner. Things like certain types of reading comprehension. Like, I love to read, I read a lot. But if you had me read a list of instructions and then carry them out, I would definitely mess it up. And so I think everyone's different. I think more individualized self-awareness is so important. And I don't think that teachers have so much going on when students go in. I think if we pulled back and set aside some time for certain things like learning, self-awareness, just like even 15 minutes a day, which maybe is a big ask, but I think it makes a huge impact to your overall well-being. We focus so much on history and math, and all those things are important, but like, if someone had said, like, if you're feeling this way, what are some things that you could do to, like, count to 10, like empathy building. There's never once a share circle where we shared our feelings in school. And I actually went to this special program called Camp Anytown for a weekend where we did that, and I grew so much. And you learn a lot of empathy. You don't learn about privilege in school and how some kids have it harder at home. You just are like mean to other kids because you're like whatever, you don't think about that stuff. And I think that would really help build better adults who have more autonomy. We also have the internet. There's a million things like, my boyfriend is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. He hates school, but he will watch these lectures online for hours. And I think finding things that you're really interested in is also really important. Teachers can help provide maybe alternative learning options to students if they know what their interests are. They can send them a cool video about space or something. The amount of hours that I spent in school learning things I didn't care about, I don't know if I remember any of that stuff, but obviously you don't know. Each student is individual. We don't have the capacity right now in schools to specialize each thing to each student. But what if we set aside at least some time to do that for each student? Just some free learning, really igniting their interests. I think a lot more students would love to read if they found books that they really loved. And I don't think I had to do that on my own outside of school. And I just really hope that our program can help teachers find, students who are on the spectrum, students who need special help, students maybe having trouble at home. No student is going to go up to a teacher and be like, my parents are emotionally abusive,
Right.
I don't know necessarily what the next steps are for that, but I think knowing that would really help build empathy between each teacher and student.
Yeah.
And then another aspect of that is the teachers, it's leaders and learners. So we're kind of leaving it open-ended because sometimes if you're in college or you just need a mentor or someone to help push you in some way. So teachers can become learners. So that's the next level. I know a few teachers. I know they have trouble with the administration a lot. They have unions right now, and they're dealing with all this COVID stuff, and a lot are being asked to go back into the classroom with really crappy plans of how they're going to go back and what the system is going to be like. And I know none of them are very happy about that. And I think that, I don't know what it's like to be on the administration side, but I feel that it would help with the communication between teachers and administrators also. I think that it hopefully will change the landscape of how teachers feel as well, because their jobs are so hard. And I think if they already have this established baseline of empathy with their students and with the administration, it will just make everyone a little bit nicer to each other.
Yeah.
Also,
Absolutely. I like that because it is honestly, as an educator myself, in a system that, I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to change it and make it better. It's difficult. And you've hit on a lot of really, really big key things that need to change. Obviously, everybody leaning in. What I like about District Zero and what's happening is the data points, right? The data points will
Yeah.
tell you, a kid will actually tell you, what they really need in some of these data points. And, what we even saw, Uzair and I, when we started this, we saw trends. There was this trend of, why are kids not getting the sleep they need? What's happening? And there's another story and layers underneath, and peeling back those layers, educators as well. And I know you can see this. This goes into business. This goes into culture. The communication is really opening up here, and I think that's what really needs to happen. You've really touched on that. So, well, let's round out here. I got two more questions. First off, what's next for Natasha Price? What's in the short-term goals for you with District Zero, or even I know you have on your website. Why don't you share that? But you do some like comic stuff, some pretty cool things as well. You do a lot of different things.
I paint a lot. Also a graphic designer on the side. I'm working on some other projects. One is called Fair and Square, which is an application where our overall goal is to create features for people moving into new houses and situations, and it's essentially setting expectations very clear for people living in places. We want to make a roommate finder, a lease creator. We have a room rental calculator based off of the square footage and who is sharing which rooms.
Nice.
I'm working on another project called Prospero, which is going to gather user data that users willingly give. We will give out points and prizes, and then that will feed into stock trends, and we will give them those recommendations. It's
Nice.
Essentially, we're creating a system for them because we feel that financially there's a lot of things that are unfair in the world, and hedge funds and rich people, they have access to all this data, and so we want to democratize that data.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that. And moving forward, I'm really, really excited about District. I just have so many ideas for it. It's just like really exciting. I'm like, okay, build it faster. I can't wait to see all the data points too for it. And just like, I think that there are things that we haven't even thought of yet that we're going to realize like later on, like, wow, we're seeing these different trends. I think psychology is really interesting, and I think we're going to learn a lot about people and individuals and how to really specialize, how to provide help for each individual person.
Awesome.
So I'm really excited about that. I hopefully these products will all happen, and I'm really excited because I really want to just help people with technology.
Right.
I see the good in technology. I know there's bad in it too. There's always that double-edged sword. But I'm hoping to make people's lives easier.
Yeah.
So communication.
Fantastic. So where can people find your website? Where are you? Natasha Price, what is it?
Natasha Price Designs.
Yeah, .com. All right. I'll put that up there. And then District Zero, where can people find District Zero?
Yes. Let me post a thing because it's District and then the number 0 and then ERO.
Got it. We'll put that up on the podcast in the description and everything.
Yeah.
It's so fun to talk with another design thinker. I kind of think of it as a disease though, because we always try to do some different things,
it
right?
It makes you crazy too. It makes you like analyze everything like in the world. You're like, I can make this better. They should hire me.
I totally empathize with you there because I mean it's a strength, but it's also a weakness, right?
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. I want to thank you again, Natasha, for hanging out with us on Disrupt Education. We look for great things, not only from you personally, but we know District Zero. You're going to iterate. You're gonna learn and then relearn.
It's so awesome. Like I can't describe how excited I am for it.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us on Disrupt Education.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.